Why it took 4 years for the Bidens to acknowledge their 7th grandchild. For the past 4 years, President Joe Biden and the First Lady took cues from their son Hunter on how to discuss the 4-year-old girl in Arkansas a paternity test had determined was their granddaughter. That meant saying nothing about her at all. Initially Hunter Biden denied paternity, and later said he had no memory of fathering her at a low point in his life. Hunter Biden asked his parents not to publicly acknowledge the girl as a lengthy child support battle played out in an Arkansas court, according to sources familiar with the matter. But in recent months, that stance became increasingly uncomfortable, at odds with President Biden's image as a loving family man and subject to criticism from his political rivals. The president began looking for the right opportunity to break the silence. They were following Hunter's wishes. "It's hard to do that without throwing your son under the bus," said one person involved in internal discussions about the matter. Last week, the Bidens publicly acknowledged their grandchild, Navy Joan Roberts, for the first time ever. Significant as the moment was for the family, the Bidens played it low-key, issuing their statement late on a Friday evening, when most people have shut down their news consumption for the week. Likewise, President Biden made his first public utterance an oblique one. Casually and without comment, he changed the count of grandchildren from 6 to 7 in a podcast taped last week and released Monday. But navigating these complicated family dynamics has always been a sensitive subject for political aides. The topic is particularly fraught when it comes to the Bidens, who are fiercely protective of their son and have shown little willingness in the past to accept political advice when it comes to their family, according to current and former officials. Prior to last week, aides were told in meetings to refer to the Bidens' 6 grandchildren, not 7. When the subject arose in public, the President and First Lady stuck to that number. "I have 6 grandchildren. And I'm crazy about them," Biden told a group of kids on the White House South Lawn in the spring. The dedication to Jill Biden's 2020 children's book Joey Read to My Grandchildren with 6 names listed. In public, the White House routinely described the issue as a private matter in which they had no role. Behind the scenes, however, some on Biden's team recognized the situation was eroding the carefully cultivated family image underpinning his political persona. In recent years, some Democrats close to the White House have privately voiced concern at having Hunter so visible around his father, worried his myriad legal issues could prove to be a distraction. But the President and First Lady have shown fierce loyalty to their son, and made clear family ties outweigh any political considerations. Few, if any, advisors felt comfortable raising their concerns about the President's son directly to Biden, according to one advisor, because of the deep family loyalty at play. Biden also trusts his son implicitly and sometimes relies on his support, the advisor told 24newsread.blogspot.com. When it came to the issue of his granddaughter, Biden also had his own family's interests to navigate. There were also a lot of stakeholders involved, a lot of grandchildren, both children and adults, and a ton of sensitivities to navigate, the person familiar with the strategy said. Hunter never shirked his legal responsibility in taking care of the daughter financially, but there was never a relationship there. That's why they continued to refer to 6 grandkids. After the paternity test determined Hunter Biden was the child's father, he stopped contesting paternity and began paying child support. In court filings in April, Navy's mother London Roberts said Hunter Biden has never seen or contacted his 4-year-old daughter and that President Biden and First Lady remain estranged from their grandchild. Hunter had sought to reduce his monthly $20,000 payments, saying he couldn't afford them. 24newsread.blogspot.com has been unsuccessful in determining whether there has been any contact yet between the Bidens and their granddaughter. The White House has not responded to the question, and neither have lawyers for Roberts or Hunter Biden. The White House declined to comment beyond the president's initial statement, reiterating its position that this is a private, family matter. Lawyers for Roberts and Hunter Biden have not responded to requires for comment. Last month, Hunter Biden settled the child support case with Roberts. As part of the deal, he agreed to give some of his paintings to his daughter, who can either keep them or keep the money from any sales of the art. Roberts also dropped her bid to change the girl's last name to Biden, according to the court filing, a step Hunter Biden had sought to prevent. As the lengthy child support battle concluded in Arkansas, Biden wanted to find an opportunity to make clear his views on his granddaughter, another person familiar with the discussions said. Criticism had begun to mount over the president's refusal to acknowledge Navy, including in a scathing New York Times column by Maureen Dowd that reverberated within the White House. Republicans also began to use the issue to malign Biden's character. "This is a guy who hasn't even visited his granddaughter in Arkansas," Florida Governor Ron DeSantis told a crowd last week, as he worked to find a winning message amid campaign struggles. Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor and U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, quipped that the mental competency tests she proposes for politicians over age 75 could include a requirement for candidates to name their number of grandchildren. Republicans view Hunter Biden as perhaps their strongest case against the president's character, accusing father and son of profiting off their name and power. But Biden has continued to keep Hunter close despite the investigations, telling reporters that he's very proud of his son. Hunter has remained a visible presence in his father's life, including at a state dinner for India's Prime Minister and on the 4th of July. The president has remained primarily concerned for his son's well-being over the course of his legal issues, people familiar with the matter say, part of why he's kept Hunter close. Hunter, a recovering drug addict, acknowledged in his 2021 book he had no memory of the encounter with Roberts that led to Navy's birth. "That's how little connection I had with anyone. I was a mess, but a mess I've taken responsibility for," he wrote. The Bidens hope if Hunter is able to resolve both the child support case and a separate federal investigation into tax and gun charges, the family can start to turn the page on a dark chapter in their history, one fueled by addiction. People close to the family note that, much like drug addiction, issues of child support and custody are confronted by Americans every day. Thousands of families have faced similar circumstances, working it out in private, versus the spotlight, another source familiar with the matter said. Speaking last Wednesday to life coach Jay Shetty for his popular podcast, the president said out loud what he'd never said before: "I have 7 grandkids. 4 of them, 5 of them old enough to talk on the phone. Every day I either text them or call them," he told Shetty. The podcast wasn't set to air until the following week, but White House aides had already begun laying the groundwork for a public statement acknowledging Navy as the Bidens' granddaughter. The circle of advisors involved in the discussions was kept small, an acknowledgement of how sensitive the matter had become inside the White House. In a statement first released to People magazine, Biden described the situation as not a political issue but a family matter. "Jill and I only want what is best for all of our grandchildren, including Navy," he wrote. Whether the president will now meet Navy remains an open question. One source familiar with the matter said he's remained open to a meeting when the time is right. But others downplayed the prospect. "I just think being there is important, and it makes such a difference," Biden told Shetty on his podcast. "I think knowing that someone's going to be there for you just to listen, just to hold you, just to hug you."
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Trudeau says feds aren't primarily responsible for housing, but how responsible are they? Amid rising housing prices and a shortage of housing supply, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said responsibility on the matter lays mostly with the provinces and territories, but experts say the federal government is playing a larger role in shaping housing policy in Canada. At a housing announcement in Hamilton on Monday, Trudeau said the issue is mostly provincial jurisdiction. "I'll be blunt as well, housing isn't a primary federal responsibility. It's not something that we have direct carriage of," he said. "But it is something that we can and must help with. Housing has become a major political issue as prices continue to rise. The Canadian Real Estate Association reported earlier this year that the average price of a home in Canada is $716,000. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre attacked Trudeau and his government Tuesday over the increasing cost of housing, saying the federal government is responsible for many policies and institutions that affect housing. Poilievre has pledged to withhold federal infrastructure funding to municipalities that block housing developments. Trudeau said he'd like to see more of an effort from the Ontario government. "I'd love to be able to share the stage right now, not just with the mayor of Hamilton, but with the province," Trudeau said. "They need to be stepping up as well, particularly on affordable housing. That is something that the federal government is taking very seriously, but we need all of us to be working together on it, and that's what we're here to continue to do." But experts told 24newsread.blogspot.com news that while Trudeau's remarks are technically accurate, they simplify a complex issue on which Ottawa could be doing a better job. Ottawa moving into housing file, experts. The Constitution or legislation sometimes explicitly states which level of government is responsible for a particular issue, but this is not the case with housing. If you read the Constitution, the word housing doesn't appear in there, said Steve Pomeroy, an industry professor and executive advisor at the Canadian Housing Evidence Collaborative at McMaster University. However, jurisprudence has generally interpreted the Constitution that matters of local things are seen as being provincial jurisdiction. So the legal interpretation of the Constitution in a very strict review would allocate responsibility for housing to the provinces. But the federal government controls many institutions and areas of policy which affect the price and availability of housing in Canada, Pomeroy said, such as federal fiscal policy and bank regulation. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, which is responsible for implementing Canada's National Housing Act, is a federal crown corporation. CMHC says it exists for a single reason, to make housing affordable for everyone in Canada, according to its website. The organization provides mortgage insurance, sets rules for who can qualify for mortgage insurance, collects data about housing in Canada, and more. There's also a federal housing minister. Sean Fraser, the former Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship, took over the portfolio in the recent cabinet shuffle. Ottawa's desire to be involved in the housing sector has fluctuated over the decades, Pomeroy said, adding that the Trudeau government has wanted to play a bigger role. The government developed a national housing strategy, which includes a plan to build up to 160,000 new homes and cut chronic homelessness in half. It's also campaigned on a number of housing policies, such as a fund for municipalities that are looking to boost housing supply, as well as a first-time home buyers savings account and a new tax for foreign buyers. The pendulum has swung all the way back to a very proactive federal role, notwithstanding the fact that the Constitution doesn't actually give them the responsibility to be there, Pomeroy said. But Lydia Muljan, a political science professor at the University of Windsor, said federal parties and governments campaigning outside their jurisdiction is far from unprecedented. She added that money is a factor as well, as the federal government has the largest budget. The federal government has the power of the purse, she said. And so historically they have done things to make housing more affordable, either by providing housing for low-income Canadians through rent subsidies or through social housing.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
PM Modi flags off metro trains in Pune, inaugurates various projects during day-long visit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as part of his day-long visit to Maharashtra's Pune, on Tuesday flagged off metro trains marking the inauguration of services on completed sections of 2 corridors of Pune Metro Phase I. These sections are from Fujuadai Station to Civil Court Station and Garewar College Station to Ruby Hall Clinic Station. The foundation stone of the project was also laid by the Prime Minister in 2016. The new sections will connect important places of Pune city like Shivaji Nagar, Civil Court, Pune Municipal Corporation Office, Pune RTO, and Pune Railway Station. PM Modi also inaugurated and laid the foundation stone of various development projects at Shivaji Nagar Police Headquarters in Pune. He laid the foundation stones for various development projects worth 15,000 Indian rupees crores after receiving Lokmanya Tilak National Award at an event in Maharashtra's Pune. Addressing a gathering at Shivaji Nagar Police Headquarters here in Pune after the inauguration ceremony, PM Modi said that his government is working towards improving the quality of life of the people. Foundation stone has been laid for around 15,000 Indian rupees crore projects here, thousands of families received proper house. Our government is very serious about the quality of life of the middle class and professionals in the city. When the quality of life of the people improves, the development of the city also happens fast, he said. Our government is working towards improving the quality of life of the people, Modi added. PM Modi on Tuesday said it was a memorable moment for him to be conferred with Lokmanya Tilak National Award. He was addressing an event in Pune where he shared the stage with Nationalist Congress Party, NCP, stalwart Sharad Pawar. This is a memorable moment for me, he said, adding, while I am very happy to be here, I am also feeling emotional. Lokmanya Tilak is the Tilak of our freedom struggle. The role of Lokmanya Tilak in India's independence, his contribution cannot be summed up in a few words or by illustrating a few incidents, PM Modi said, invoking the freedom fighter, adding, I pay homage to him and all our freedom fighters. I am honored to be on Maharashtra soil. This is the land of Chhatrapati Shivaji and Jyotirba Phule. Prime Minister Modi added that he has decided to donate the prize money from the award to the Namami Ganj project. I have decided to donate the prize money to the Namami Ganj project. I want to dedicate this award to 140 crore people of the country, he said. The award was constituted by Tilak Smarak Mandir Trust in 1983, to honor the legacy of Lokmanya Tilak. With this award, PM Modi became the 41st recipient of the award. The former recipients include luminaries such as Shankar Dayal Sharma, Pranab Mukherjee, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Indira Gandhi, Manmohan Singh, N.R. Narayana Murthy, and E. Sridharan, among others. Earlier on Tuesday, PM Modi reached Pune as part of a day-long visit. PM Modi was received by Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde and his deputies Devendra Fadnavis and Ajit Pawar. PM Modi also offered prayers at Shrimant Dagdushat Halwai Mandir.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Hipkins backs light rail for Auckland in wake of National's plan to axe it. Light rail will be part of Auckland's future under a Labour-led government, but it is too soon to say what it will look like, Prime Minister Chris Hipkins says. Hipkins has also expressed his frustration over the progress of various projects that make up the Let's Get Wellington Moving banner. National has promised to dump both Let's Get Wellington Moving and Auckland's light rail project if it is elected later this year. Instead, it is proposing a rapid transit network with public transport corridors in the northwest, at a cost of $2.9 billion, airport to Botany, $2.1 billion, and completion of the Eastern Busway, $717 million. Hipkins told Morning Report a process has begun to determine the best options for light rail in Auckland. But he would not commit to a specific route or whether the line will be surface or underground. We funded the business case so that work can be done, and once that's done then we'll be able to give more detail, but I'm not going to preemptively go ahead, otherwise, there'd be no point in doing that work. A city the size of Auckland needed mass rapid transit, but there were still questions to be answered on which option would be best. In its transport policy announcement on Monday, National also promised to get rid of Let's Get Wellington Moving. When asked about his attitude to it, Hipkins said it was simplistic to consider Let's Get Wellington Moving as a single entity. It was a series of projects ranging from some new roundabouts to major projects such as a possible new MT Victoria Tunnel and what to do around the Basin Reserve. He pointed out the last national government had set up Let's Get Wellington Moving in a bid to resolve an impasse over upgrade plans around the Basin Reserve. Now for the last 6 years it hasn't delivered the sort of progress on Wellington transport projects that I think Wellingtonians would expect, so what I've indicated is I think we need to have a good look on whether that's the right way forward. The route from Ngauronga to the airport had been a bottleneck for decades. Successive governments have attempted to do things, they haven't succeeded. Ultimately we do need to make progress though. Let's get Wellington moving doesn't seem to have been able to generate it, momentum. National was being disingenuous at the way it had gone about costing its $24 billion transport policy. In some instances it had obtained figures that dated from when it was last in government, Hipkins said. He accused National of already backtracking on some costings. For example, the 4-lane highway from Whangarei to Tauranga was initially priced at $6 billion in total. In reality, it would cost a magnitude more than that, and National was now saying it did not mean the $6 billion figure it had quoted on its initial announcement. I think they probably need to spend a bit more time getting the details sorted, Hipkins said. He cited other examples where National had underestimated costs, such as the Warkworth-Welsford roading project, which National said would cost $2.2 billion, whereas Waka Kotahi estimated it would cost $3.5 billion to $4 billion. This is information they could have gotten hold of. They've chosen to use costings dating back in some cases to when they were last in government. Costs have gone up massively since then. The government would soon release its policy statement on transport, which would set out spending over the next 3 years. Labour's transport policy, which would take a longer-term view on transport priorities, would also be announced in the next few weeks. It was important constitutionally that there was separation between the two, Hipkins said. On the recommendation from an arbitration panel that teachers receive a 14.5% pay deal, Hipkins said it came with a significant price tag. The government would need to look closely at the education budget to see how it could be paid for during a time when funding was under pressure. Arbitration was entered into in good faith and the government would certainly consider the recommendations, Hipkins said.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Te Pati Maori proposes Moko Puna Authority to end state care of Maori. Te Pati Maori has proposed putting an end to state care for Maori children, saying it's a response to a fundamentally broken system. The party unveiled its policy on Wednesday, calling for Oranga Tamariki, OT, to be reformed, with a new Maori-run independent Moko Puna Maori Authority. The authority would be set up as a by Maori for Maori organization with the goal of eliminating state care of Moko Puna, Tamariki, and Rangitahi Maori. It would do this by establishing a partnership network across Hapu, IWI, and other Maori organizations to ensure Moko Puna Maori remain connected to their whakapapa. This would be set down under new legislation partially repealing the Oranga Tamariki Act, with a 3-year transition period. The new authority would be funded with $1 billion from the state, coming out of OT's current $1.5 billion budget. The policy promised further changes. All youth care and protection residences shut down. Immediate end to at-birth uplifts. Immediate end to uplifts done without consent from Hwana, Hapu, and IWI. Review of the Child Protection Protocol, which dictates how OT and police respond to reports of potential harm to children. Natini Watu, a Hwanaora early support trial joint project involving Te Puni Kokiri, OT, ACC, and the Hwanaora Commissioning Agency, would be scaled up. Workers would be required to undergo de-escalation and use of force training. Co-leader Debbie Ngerwa-Packer said with Maori making up 70% of children in state care, the funding split for the two organizations made sense. We've said this numerous times before, Maori are not the problem waiting to be punished. It's broken, it's fundamentally broken because it's designed off a system that assumed Maori could not look after our Tamariki, our Moko Puna, so that's the basis of our policy today. The party's policy document said Oranga Tamariki simply could not be changed from within, quoting the Waitangi Tribunal's conclusion that reform of Oranga Tamariki, no matter how well designed, will ultimately fail another generation of children. Generations of our kids have been abused and mistreated by the state, and report after report has shown the racism and abuse that lies at the heart of Oranga Tamariki, Ngarwa Packer said in a statement. Co-leader Raywairi Waidatai said the Crown had no legal right to remove Moko Pune from their Huana, Hapu, and IWI. How many more chances do we give a Crown agency which continues to breach Te Tiratai in removing our Tamariki and Moko Pune from their Huana? The answer? None. Children's Minister Kelvin Davis said building another bureaucracy would be just missing the point. I believe that our communities, our Hapu, our IWI, our Māori providers know how to look after our Tamariki. So to build another bureaucracy I think is just missing the point.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
TikTok ban on Australian government devices should also cover WeChat, Parliamentary Committee recommends. The ban on TikTok from government devices in Australia should be extended to the devices of government contractors, and should also cover WeChat, a parliamentary committee has recommended. The Senate Committee examining foreign interference on social media said in its report tabled on Tuesday that it had been particularly concerned with the unique national security risks posed by companies like TikTok and WeChat, whose parent companies ByteDance and Tencent respectively, are irrefutably headquartered in and run from authoritarian countries like China. The committee said China's national intelligence law means the Chinese government can require these companies to secretly cooperate with Chinese intelligence agencies. The committee previously heard from TikTok that China-based employees can access Australian user data, but the company said there were checks in place to ensure approval for the data went through the US-based employees of the company. The committee, chaired by the Liberal Senator and Shadow Cybersecurity Minister, James Patterson, recommended that if the US government forced ByteDance to divest its stake in TikTok, then the Australian government should consider ensuring TikTok Australia is also separated from its parent company. The government should also extend the TikTok ban on government devices to all government contractors who have access to Australian government data, the committee said, and the government should consider extending the ban to WeChat. The White House in the US issued a new rule in June banning government contractors from having TikTok on employee devices, after the government-wide ban late last year. The AFR reported last month that a number of consultancy firms in Australia had also issued a preemptive ban on the app on their devices. The committee also recommended social media platforms should abide by a set of transparency rules, including having an Australian presence, labeling state-affiliated media, and disclosing content censorship or takedowns and government directions about content on their platforms. The social media companies should face fines if failing to meet the minimum transparency requirements, the committee said, and as a last resort, they should face a ban from the country by the Home Affairs Minister. Patterson told the Senate on Tuesday that the health of social media networks directly affects the health of the country. Foreign authoritarian states know this. They do not permit free debate on their own social media platforms. They use ours as a vector for information operations to shape our decision-making in their national interest, at the expense of our own, he said. Not all social media platforms are the same. The ability for a social media platform to be weaponized varies according to the laws of the country from where it is headquartered. Ella Woods-Joyce, TikTok's Director of Public Policy for Australia and New Zealand, said while the company disagreed with some of the characterizations and statements made about TikTok, it welcomed that there was no Australia-wide ban recommended. We are also encouraged that recommendations largely appear to apply equally to all platforms, she said. TikTok remains committed to continuing an open and transparent dialogue with all levels of Australian government. Labor and the Greens did not provide any dissenting views in the report, but in additional comments the government senators Jess Walsh and Raf Ciccone said while they endorsed the transparency framework proposed, they noted a blunt nationwide ban of specific apps would not be effective, and would lead to a game of whack-a-mole with new apps popping up to replace those banned in Australia. They said any further bans on government devices should be informed by advice from security agencies. Greens Senators Sarah Hanson-Young and David Shoebridge said any proposal should be platform neutral, and not target specific apps. We urgently need a platform-neutral approach to policy because targeting a single platform based on the country it is linked to does nothing to protect Australians from foreign interference, they said. Comment has been sought from Tencent.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
WeChat, why does Elon Musk want X to emulate China's Everything app? Earlier this week Elon Musk rebranded Twitter to X, another step in his plan to emulate Chinese mega app WeChat. Mr. Musk has long said that he wants to transform his social media firm, which he bought last year for $44 billion, £34.4 billion, into a much larger platform. He has previously praised WeChat, a so-called everything app that combines chat, dating, payments and social media, and has said creating something even close to that with Twitter would be an immense success. In a post on X this week, Mr. Musk said that over the coming months, we will add comprehensive communications and the ability to conduct your entire financial world. He will hope that growing X will lead to a jump in revenue. The company has lost almost half its advertising revenue since Mr. Musk bought it, and it is struggling under a heavy debt load. So what is WeChat, and why does Mr. Musk want to emulate it? Launched by technology giant Tencent in 2011, WeChat is now used by almost all of China's 1.4 billion people. Calling it a super app is an understatement. Its services include messaging, voice and video calling, social media, food delivery, mobile payments, games, news and even dating. It is like WhatsApp, Facebook, Apple Pay, Uber, Amazon, Tinder and a whole lot more rolled into one. It is so woven into the fabric of Chinese society that it is almost impossible to live there without it. As you can see from the images below, the interfaces for its various parts are distinct. It started as a messaging platform like WhatsApp or iMessage, and its two most used features are the WhatsApp-like chats and moments, which is similar to Facebook. Its widely used wallet feature can be linked to debit and credit cards. Most shops and online retailers in China accept WeChat payments, with users scanning QR codes to pay. People can also pay household bills, make investments, and even take out loans on WeChat. Government services are also on WeChat, with users able to check social security information, pay speeding tickets and book hospital appointments. And during the pandemic, it became an essential. While the whole country was under strict zero-COVID restrictions, it was impossible to move around without a health code generated on the app. But there are several downsides to having so many features on one app. From a practical point of view, WeChat takes up a large part of a phone's memory, typically tens of gigabytes of data storage. More seriously, the huge reach of WeChat into every corner of Chinese life has raised concerns about government censorship, surveillance and other privacy issues. China blocks access to many foreign websites, from news outlets like the 24newsread.blogspot.com to social media platforms such as Facebook and, ironically, Elon Musk's X. This level of state control over the internet also makes it extremely dangerous for people to speak out against the government on WeChat. It is not unusual for dissenting voices to have their accounts suspended for days or weeks for something they have said in chats or on moments. Even people sharing seemingly uncontroversial information have found themselves on the wrong side of government censors and had their accounts and chat groups shut down. Kich Liao, Assistant Director of the Atlantic Council's Global China Hub, says super apps like WeChat align with Beijing's aims of organizing all aspects of life to keep control of the country. Principally to prevent political risk, anything that could germinate into an opposition and eventual risk to the CCP's Chinese Communist Party's rule. Will it work in the West? WeChat's huge success in China is down to two major factors. Kechen Fang, at Chinese University of Hong Kong, tells the 24newsread.blogspot.com. For one, most people in China access WeChat on smartphones, rather than desktop computers, due to the relatively late development of the internet in the country. Which means they live in the walled gardens of apps rather than the open web. It is much easier to build an everything app on smartphones than on computers, he says. Mr. Fang also says that China's lack of competition regulation, which contrasts with most Western countries, allows an app like WeChat to effectively block rival platforms, such as shopping platform Doubao and video app Douyin. Could Mr. Musk make a similar app work outside China? We may be finding out soon, and experts believe it may all depend on digital payments. Kendra Schaefer, from policy research firm Trivium China, says that Mr. Musk has already recognized some of the key elements that have helped make WeChat critical to daily life in China, including integrating social media with digital payments. That could be the secret sauce of the super app, she says. Edith Yung, from investment firm Race Capital, points out that a major difference between China and the West is the widespread adoption of digital payment technology. While shops in China are legally obliged to accept cash, in practice, digital payments are far more common. This difference, she says, may be an obstacle to Mr. Musk's ambitions. It will take the Western world longer to implement a truly cashless or credit card-free society, she says.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.